Hello, everybody. The following is a short presentation that covers how to write your response essays. Now, these essays are a very important part of the course. However, many of you will be unfamiliar with them, and you might be confused about what to do. Here, I hope to clear up some of that confusion, but if you have any further questions, please feel free to ask me or one of your tutors. Without any further ado, on to the tutorial. Okay, now I'm going to assume that you've done the readings. It's really important that you do them and that you do them before lecture. The lectures will cause confusion otherwise. Also, I'm going to assume that you've done the tutorial questions. Remember, the tutorial questions will appear on the midterm and the final tests, so there's no mystery about assessment. Attempt to do the tutorial questions will also help you to build the critical thinking skills needed for the response essay. So in short, I'm going to assume that you are prepared. Okay, next you'll want to obtain the short assignment template, which you can get in the course resources folder on Blackboard. Now, if you have any trouble getting onto Blackboard or navigating, please see your tutor as soon as you can, and we'll try to sort you out a solution. Okay, you'll next want to click the Essay Template and Example Essays folder. And there you're going to find the template that's going to be your guide to writing this assignment. And you'll also find some model essays which you can look at. Now click the link to the essay template and download it to your computer. Behold, in front of you, you have the MS Word document that is the template for the essay. Now, I think of this essay as a kind of scaffolding or bracework for your thinking. You'll notice that there are nearly 400 words in the document, and many of these words can be used exactly as they are in your response essay. Now, the words will help you to focus your mind and to structure your thinking and writing. But even more basic, I hope that the document helps you to address negative emotions that stand in the way of writing, such as fear or boredom or aggravation, because the document gives you a head start on the writing process itself. Okay, what to do once you have the template? Well, we want you to focus on one idea from the readings, not to present a summary of the entire reading. You might briefly summarize the main arguments of a reading, but we want you to narrow on one idea or claim. And this is probably the most difficult part of the assignment for students to get, because prior to university, you're usually writing book reports or summaries of one kind or another. Well, here we want you to do something quite a bit different. We want to cultivate a critical thinking skill. We want you to be independently minded, and we want you to be persuasive. So on your path to cultivating those skills, select one idea from the readings, use plain language, and try to describe why this idea is interesting, or why it's puzzling, or why someone might find it compelling. Cover any evidence in the reading that supports this idea, and then present an opinion about whether you agree with it or not. And if you do agree with it, present alternatives that someone might have to that idea, and try to think of reasons why the alternatives are not entirely persuasive. Now, there's no requirement to use the template to structure your thinking and writing, but the template, if you follow it and work through an example, will give you an idea of what we're looking for in a good response. Okay, suppose you come across the following passage, which was written by Pascal Boyer. It reads as follows: religious notions are products of the supernatural imagination. To some extent, they owe their salience, likelihood of activation, and transmission potential to features that they share with other supernatural concepts, such as found in dreams, fantasy, folktales, and legends. Well, if you're like me, you probably find that sentence really confusing. What does Boyer mean by these terms? Supernatural imagination, salience, activation, transmission potential, features, concepts. It's individually the words make sense, But when they're strung together in the sentence, I find it hard to know exactly what Boyer's wanting to say about us and how we think. So maybe that problem is mine and I need to work harder. Or maybe the problem is Boyer's and he's not entirely clear. Either way, I think that's a pretty interesting sentence, and were I to write this response, I might decide that I'm going to make it my task in the response essay to clarify the sentence and to think about whether the claims it makes are true. Now, as I think through it, I'm going to try to present those claims sympathetically. I'm not just going to formulate my opinion and dismiss his ideas. Rather, I'm going to use plain language, and without wasting too many words, I'm going to try to clarify what I take those concepts to mean, why I think Boyer takes them to be important, and I'm going to think about whether I agree with him or not. Now notice I'm not giving a summary of the entire argument. I'm instead just launching in with a sentence that I find confusing. And I want to really emphasize the point that you don't need to have a clear understanding in your head of what a theorist is saying. Rather, begin with your confusion and let that be the interest of your response. Because if you're confused, others might be confused too. Okay, below I've just inserted some text into the template while using as much as I could of the existing scaffolding or bracework to structure my thought. Now, I'll let you read through that on your own, but all I've done is just stated that I will attempt to address this confusing sentence. And what I did below it is I departed a little bit from the template, and I included headings that are consistent with the template, but which reflect my unique pathway to thinking sympathetically about the pros and cons of this idea. And I did that to emphasize a point that comes up, which is, do you absolutely need to stick to the template? No, you don't. You need to stick to the intentions behind the template. But really, if you engage with a piece of writing critically and creatively, and you formulate a clear idea that looks at both sides, that's all we want. Okay, well, allow yourself to write bad sentences and to revise them. And once you're satisfied that you've made a good attempt, you want to upload the document to Blackboard. Now remember to keep a backup of all your work. I use Dropbox and Google Drive, and both services are free for modest storage demands. But whatever you do, make sure to back up your work, because if you accidentally delete it, you will have our sympathy, but that's not a valid excuse for submitting late work. The responses are meant to be only 750 words on average. So again, narrow, quickly, develop your points concisely, and use the template as a guide. You'll get feedback after your first submission, and we understand that this is your first submission. Still, we hope that you try your very best. Okay, I wish I could truthfully say to you these things are fun. Perhaps for you it is a fun exercise. For most of us, this kind of exercise is a bit like eating sand. It's not at all fun, and I don't want you to expect it to be fun. It's important because it's building a skill, and critical thinking and effective communication, the skills that we're after here, are very general. They're very important. They will translate to almost any area of your life that requires dealing with other people, and especially that requires dealing with disagreements. But they're skills that require practice and require effort. The investment is worth it, and over time, as you look back, I think you'll be grateful for having made that investment. But if it is difficult, I guess that's normal, and I just want you to be aware of that.
still in their beds, save for a few who can't find their rest, and those who awake with dreams troubling them. Sadness steals my body, fills my bones. A careless like a heavy moan. Peter, pick her up or let her go. Her wings are but the weight of melted snow. Bird, I need your help. How do I know? In the east it is dawn, and the seas are all pulling and heaving, and the seagulls are wheeling, the sailors are hauling up the catch before sailing in. In the west it is dusk, and the lights in the kitchen are glowing, and the smiles wafting out on the streets tell a story, peering through the windows of each passing building. Sadness steals my body, fills my bones. A careless like a heavy moan.